This isn't gonna work well.
It's fun.
If you're thinking about getting into model railroading or you're already an addict, boy, do I got a project for you. In this episode, we're gonna mix things up a little bit. We're heading back over to Fertile Valley where we're gonna rust some track, paint some ties, and do a little ballasting. It's gonna be a long night, people, and it starts right now. Hey rail fans, welcome back to my hobby room and to the Brown Smith Railroad. It is a Saturday afternoon and boy do I got a story for you. Hey listen, last week I showed you how I laid out my main line and told you that this week I was going to show you how I laid all this track and yada yada yada. Well, I videoed all of that, but I don't feel like showing it to you. I feel like doing something else, and so I'm switching gears on you. That's just how I rail in here, baby. Also, I put in the tempered hardboard for the second deck and I put some drywall mud on it and it's ready to sand, and I videoed some of that and I'm not going to show that to you right now. Instead, let me tell you the story, okay? Cyndi Brown, the first lady of model railroading, and I were walking through a hobby store today and I was going all wham about I'm tired of laying track, I'm tired of doing bench work, I want to work on something else. And she said, you, bro, need to get back to work on Fertile Valley. Yep, she called me bro. So, you know, I've come home, I'm inspired, it's late in the afternoon on a Saturday, and I want to just get back to work, spend my evening working on Fertile Valley, so that's what we're going to do. Just before I get to work though, a little bit of housekeeping. For those of you who enjoy our live modeling show, Track Smack, that we do at 7 a.m. Pacific every Saturday morning, keep in mind it has moved to its own channel, Track Smack. That's creative. It's the Track Smack channel, so you're not going to find it here, you'll find the replay there. Head there, subscribe, you can watch the live broadcasts when they occur. So anyway, housekeeping done, I want to get to work. Here's what I need to do. Sequence of events, and then you can follow me through as I do it. First thing, I need to remove the tunnel portals because I don't want them to get honked up. I spend a lot of time on my tunnel portals. Then I need to pull out the tunnels themselves. If you've been watching, you know, my tunnels are removable for access to the track. Once I get that done, we're gonna do a little bit of work on the track, cosmetic work. Paint it, then ballast it to a point, put the tunnel portals back in, and then get going on building these mountains. So the first thing I need to do is get back in here and pull these tunnel portals out. So the first thing I'll do is I will take out my wooden tunnel portal. I scratch built this and I made some videos about it. You can find a link to the playlist in the description below, but pretty proud of this. It's a little fragile, but it works. So we're gonna pull this out. And then back up in here, we've got our concrete tunnel portal. I also scratch built this. Maybe you saw the video, maybe you didn't, but there's also a link in the description to how I made this. Basically, I printed out the concrete and stuck it to some foam core. Pretty happy with the way it came out, but we're gonna get this one out of the way. And now I'm just gonna come in from behind and pull out the tunnels themselves. So, with these two things out of the way, it's time to get down to painting this track and then ballasting it. So to get started on that, I want to introduce you to these little gems. These are the railroad ties I cut off the track to make room for the rail joiners when I put it together. Well, we save these, and then I take my X-Acto knife and I cut off the railroad spikes and slide them back in under the track so there's no gaps in the scenery or in the track work. So anyway, what we're gonna do is go through and install those in, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 places real quick. And then there's nothing keeping us from painting this track. This is another case where it's not rocket science. We take and we cut off those spikes like this, and the tie plates, I guess, technically, right? And then we just go through and slide that sucker gently under the track. Now, the reason I say gently is because there still may be a little bump or something in there, and I don't want to screw up the track while I'm sticking it in there. Yeah, it's a little tight. Like that one's still on. There we go. Okay, so I've got like 5 or 6 more places to do that too. I'm gonna just run through and do those real quick. You've seen me do it twice. How much more do you need? And then we're gonna go ahead and, whoa, paint this stuff. That's gonna be so exciting. I'll see you in a minute. And boom, all the railroad ties are in where they were missing, from the tunnel portals to all the way down there, even though we're only gonna be doing to like an inch outside the tunnel portals. But I was doing it, might as well get it done. So here's the deal. We need to get paint and ballast on these tracks out to about an inch in front of the tunnel portals. If I go further than that, knowing me, A, I'll bleed on it at some point. You guys have watched my videos, right? That's A. B, I'll probably get sculpt mold or something on it and have to redo it. It's gonna look like crap. So I don't want to go that far. What I'll do now is I'll get 2 different colors of rust to rust these different sets of rails. Now keep in mind, these rails up here, right here, these were put in like 1880. Maybe they were upgraded once since then, but they're a lot older than the ones that are up here. These were put in 1963 based on the date on the tunnel portal. I'm just saying, that's where I get my information from. So I'm gonna weather them slightly differently as we move forward. Now, normally, we would get an airbrush out and go wah, 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 and put a bunch of railroad tie brown on these things. But again, I only want to go about an inch outside the tunnel. So I'm probably going to brush that on after I put on the rust. And as soon as I find my rust colored paint, we'll get on that. Hang on a second, I'll be right back. And boom, I found my paint. And I also found me a little micro brush. This is Tester's Creative FX Rust / Stain. I don't know. I bought this at a store some time ago. I used it up on the logging camp. It's a very bright rust. Probably gonna have to tone it down a little bit, but we're gonna use that for the older rails down here on the bottom. I also have me some Testers Get Her Done. It's called Flat Rust. It's a little bit more, I don't know, auburn kind of rust. And I think I'm gonna use that for the tracks above. Not as rusty, kind of a different kind of steel, whatever. And then I got me a little micro brush, just like the big boys have. So let's start with the top rails so we don't have to reach over wet paint to get to what we want to do. For spits, I'll rub my finger on there and get rid of that. And we'll run the Bright Boy through there later on to really clean those rail heads off. Let's move on to the other track. Just brush it along the rail and the tie plates. And boom, I got the rust on the rails and it looks totally awesome. And here's the thing, that little extra step throughout the layout really adds a sense of realism to it. Now, it's not like anybody's gonna walk in here and go, well, you rusted your track, you're amazing. Even though I am amazing, just kidding. But it's just taking that little extra step that really sets it apart in my humble opinion. So now what I want to do is paint the railroad ties. To do that, we're going to use this Model Master Railroad Tie Brown flat paint. Now here's the deal. I caught my brush. That scared the crap out of me, by the way. I thought that was another earthquake. Now I remember this paint being more brown than it is. It's a little kind of greenish. So we're gonna put it on. Luckily, it's only a little bit of it, and we're gonna see if we like it. If we don't, we're gonna call an audible. It's my railroad. I can do whatever I want. But I don't need a whole bunch of this. So I'm gonna thin it out with some 70% isopropyl alcohol. Just enough to put sort of a glazing over to flatten out the railroad ties, give them a little bit different color. So let's get on that right now. Okay, if you'll forgive the regular guy way of doing things, I put a little of that 70% isopropyl alcohol in this beer bottle cap right here. And what I intend to do is get my brush nice and soaked and dip it in the paint and then just paint along the railroad ties, trying not to get it on the tie plates. Okay, well, we've got the rails rusted, got the ties painted railroad tie brown, and to tell you the truth, it's looking pretty good. So now it's time to ballast some junk, at least enough to get outside the tunnel portal. And here's the quandary. This Woodland Scenics Fine Ballast Gray, I have used over on Switch Junction exclusively, well, almost exclusively. And the thing is, it's kind of bland. It's kind of just a gray color the whole way. It doesn't look too prototypical. I'm trying to be a little prototypical, people. So what I did over there is I added this light gray Woodland Scenics Fine Ballast, and now it looks like we're on a salt flat or something. It's way too white. You know, on the prototype, I've seen some of this stuff, which is sort of a pinkish color. I don't know, it's pink. What do you think of that? It says C&NW Santa Fe Mauve is the technical term for it. It's mauve. Made by Arizona Rock and Mineral Company. It's HO scale ballast, but it'll work for what we're doing. And then, of course, I've got my old faithful, I got me some dirt. Yep, we're gonna use dirt as ballast because here's the thing, over here, woof, there's dust everywhere. That's amazing my trains run at all. Over here on the Switch Junction lead, it's old track. It's gotten a little muddy, it's got a little dirt. So what I'm gonna try to do is mix some of this together and see what happens. Now, the good news is I'm going about an inch or two out of the tunnel portals. So if we don't like it, we can change it a little bit, I guess. But for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix up some of this dark gray, some of this light gray, and some of this dirt, and see if we can't ballast coming out of the bottom tunnel on the way to Switch Junction. Okay, rail fans, I've never seen this done before. I've never heard of this being done before. I've certainly never done it before. But what I'm gonna do is take some Woodland Scenics Gray Fine Ballast and dump a little in here. Well, we'll call that a little bit. Hey, that noise in the background? Neighbors bringing in their trash cans. I'm just saying, it's the regular guy way. Now I'm gonna take just a little bit of the Fine Ballast Light Gray from Woodland Scenics, just add a little bit in there, just to give it some variety. And now what I've got is some dirt in this woman's stocking here that we'll just sort of see if we can dump in there. It's supposed to just go right in. Just a little bit of it. It's raining down in there. It's going okay. We're adding a little bit of dirt. Well, okay, we'll see if that's enough. We're gonna mix all that up. After mixing it up, I think it needs some more dirt. It needs some more brown color. That's my opinion. I'm going for it. So after pouring all that together and mixing that up, that's kind of the color we got right there. A little hard to see in the cup. We're gonna see how it looks on the layout. Okay, so with our custom batch of ballast, which I hope is gonna look good at some point, we're ready to put ballast down. I'm gonna use this spoon that I stole from Cyndi Brown, the first lady of model railroading, about a year ago. She still hasn't caught on. This is my spoon now, bro. I'm gonna use that to spread it or to place it, and then I'm gonna use this brush right here to sort of spread it around, get it to fill in, and get it the way we want it. So let's get this camera, let's get in there, and let's get it done. So once again, in the not rocket science category, we're gonna take and spoon out a little bit of that ballast that we custom mixed right here on the Cyndi Brown I Stole It spoon. And I'm just gonna sort of place it in there in the center of the tracks first. Because some of it's gonna spill out and some of it's gonna go on the edges, and so we'll take care of that later. Look, right now. All right, so I get my first little bit down there. That's all awesome. And run my brush across the top of it. And I want to brush this, the way I do it anyway, is until I can see the railroad ties again. Well, not that much. Got a lot of railroad ties exposed, people. Just kind of pour it in like that. Hey, it's the regular guy method. Get over it and then brush that out. I'm gonna brush it past where the rusted rails are because later on we'll fix that. I just won't pour the glue all the way out there. You'll see what I mean by that in just a moment. Okay, in my opinion, this looks totally awesome with the ballast mixed in with the dirt and the way I got it spread out. Totally cool. So let's move up to the top track where we're going to do things just a little bit differently. For the double track main at the top, I'm not going to add the dirt to it, but I think I want to use that same mix of the dark gray and the light gray. It really adds a nice variegated look that I've seen on the prototypes. Anyway, that's what's going to happen on my railroad. So I'm going to mix some of that up and then let's spread it on those tracks. Okay, just before I spread this, I got to tell you, mixing those two ballasts together, the light gray and dark gray, is totally awesome. I can't believe I didn't think about this before. It looks so much like the prototype, so much like gravel. It's blowing my mind right now. So let me get it laid out on the track and you'll see what I mean as we do it. Dragging it along. Now in between these two tracks, of course, we're going to fill it in a little differently because they're side by side, but whatever. It looks so good right now. I am so stoked. And there's the double track main. Man, does that look good. I love that ballast. It's kicking my butt right now. It's so awesome. Well, I gotta tell you, that looks really awesome. I am so glad in both cases I mixed up the ballast to give it some variegated color. The stuff up there on the main line, I can't wait to see that on the whole railroad. Anyway, moving on, we've got to glue this stuff down now. To do that, we're going to use 70% isopropyl alcohol to saturate it to sort of break the surface tension to allow glue to get down in there. Then we're going to use a mixture of white glue, water, and just a drop of dish soap in there. It's going to get down in there and glue it in. Now, to do that normally, I use a pipette. The problem is I can't find my pipettes anywhere. I don't know where they are. They didn't make the move or something. I had a bunch of them, bro, and I can't find them. So I wanted to get this done tonight. And so me and Cyndi Brown, the first lady of model railroading, ran over to the dollar store and we bought these right here. Mustard and ketchup bottle. I'm going to give this a shot, people. There you go. It's a better view. They've got a small hole in it, and if I put the stuff in there, I'll, let's say, use red for alcohol and yellow for the glue, and then just sort of barely squeeze it. Hopefully it's going to do the job, but like I've been saying, if you're in too big a hurry, you can screw it up, but I'm going to give this a shot. So let me mix up some junk, and we'll get over there and start gluing down that ballast. Well, it's the following morning, and I got to tell you, I just popped right out of bed at 5:30 because I couldn't wait to see how this is going to look once it's dry. And I got to tell you, I'm really happy with it. I put the tunnels back in, put the tunnel portals on the front. Gonna have to fine tune that a little bit. Still got a smidge of a light leak problem on this bottom tunnel that we're gonna fix later. The mission was to ballast the inside of the tunnels, ballast the track inside those tunnels, and it came out awesome. I'm very happy with the results. This will free us up now to put in the mountains and just get going on the rest of Fertile Valley. Maybe we can get to some of that next time. But thanks for joining me this time. I hope you had a great time hanging out in my hobby room with me on a Saturday night. And until next time, my name is Steve Brown. Rail on, my friends.